In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at our GFS and European models where we have cold air. It's already here. You probably feel it outside, so that doesn't come as a surprise, but it is going to last quite a while. We do have a little bit of a lull in it expected at some point next week before models anticipate we will move right back into a brutal cold pattern once again. Now, some of our model guidance today is going to show some major threats at snowstorms, in particular along the eastern United States, and that also shouldn't come as a big surprise. When you have this much cold air over a long period of time, there is bound to be threats of snowfall. When the temperatures are conducive of it, storms that move through will bring the possibility of accumulating snowfall. So we're going to look at that today. Also, just major lake effect snowfall, potentially like 60 inches around Watertown, New York. A lot of other areas looking at 30, 40, 50 inches along, all of our lakes in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So major lake effect snowfall, as well as a huge, huge story here. Let's go ahead and dive into things, and we're looking at this afternoon already. And sure enough, we're basically in the pattern we've been predicting for weeks. These models have been on a tear, so I really feel like our analysis here on the channel has been really great as well for a few weeks, even a couple of months, where we're kind of just on a hot streak here. So I'm looking to continue that with the accuracy. I think it's important to note that when we're looking at the models and, like, for instance, the snowfall totals, it's not my opinion, that's just the models. I see a lot of people saying, you were calling for, snowfall in Philadelphia. I wasn't, unless I said that. Unless I said I expect, snowfall in Philadelphia, then it's just the raw model guidance. But I do put my opinion in there as well, and that is actually my thoughts and what, I feel like I could fairly be judged on, but not really just the snowfall maps that we show here, because it's just the models. I didn't draw it out. It's just what these models are calling for. They're not my models. They're just the two most major models in the world, really, and the two most regularly used. So we use these to decipher what we expect upcoming. Let's just dive into it. We see heavy lake effect snowfall already ongoing today. So this is going to start accumulating quickly, as I've noted in yesterday's video. This is going to be heavy snowfall at 1 to 2 inches per hour most of the time. And, regardless of ground temperature or wetness or anything, it is going to stick fast. It's just coming down too fast. If you've ever watched snow start to accumulate, the flakes will fall, and if it's on wet or warm ground, it'll melt. But it takes a second, right? The snow is falling at such a high rate that another flake is falling on top of that first one before it has the chance to fully melt, and then that process just gets it, accumulating before that, faster than the melting is going, I guess is a better way to put it. So we have a lot of moisture moving through the southeast. It's just not meeting up fully with our jet stream. There would have been more potential for snowfall in here, honestly, if this moisture was a little bit more amped right up into that jet stream, but it's just not in this case. Let's take a look at Saturday, and we're going to be almost equally as cold here tomorrow from the time I'm making this video. Big rivalry week in college football. You have Texas versus A&M. That might actually be today. I don't know. They have a lot of the games going on today, but Ohio State, Michigan, it's going to be freezing for that game. Classic stuff. Lots of big games happening around the nation. Let me know in the comments which game you're going to be watching tomorrow, if any. I'd be curious to hear what types of games you guys are going to be watching. I know there's so many big ones going on. Let's take a look. Well, I guess I should mention there is some snow showers. We've been looking at this for a couple of days, but Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, we're watching for the chance of snow showers, and this could bring a dusting or a couple of inches if you're in this heaviest swath. It is certainly cold enough. As we reach towards Sunday, a lot of these snow showers have gone ahead and moved up in towards like southwest Pennsylvania, southern Ohio, West Virginia, northern Kentucky, areas like that. Still almost equally cold. Heavy lake effect snowfall still ongoing by Sunday, the 1st of December. Monday the 2nd here, I think things are getting a little cooler now. And we mentioned this either yesterday or the day before, but we have warm air surging up the west, and you can kind of anticipate the opposite of whatever's happening out west to happen in the east. So the further north this jet stream goes out west, the further south you can expect this jet stream to move in the east. It's working kind of like yin-yang, just kind of like pushing towards opposite directions here. So we see the deep cold moving well into Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and obviously anywhere north of there. Lake effect snowfall, as well as just general snowfall showers, kind of expanding around this Great Lakes area. We're still watching for that very closely. As we move towards Tuesday, we're still really cold. And here comes that synoptic snowstorm, which I'm just going to mention what that means again. But basically, this lake effect snow is just cold air moving over warm water, and that creates instability and snowfall. That's how lake effect works. But a synoptic snowstorm is an actual low pressure system causing the snowfall. So that's how we differentiate it. But this is also going to move over the Great Lakes. So we're going to have kind of two causations of the snowfall occurring at once. And even once this synoptic storm moves over the Great Lakes, we could see what's called lake effect enhanced snowfall, and that would be the synoptic snowfall happening, but then in those lake bands, heavier snowfall happening in little areas just off of the lakes here as this snowstorm moves over. So it could be a little bit heavier in those areas that have already seen a ton of snowfall. Let's see what happens by Wednesday, and sure enough, it's over the Great Lakes area, and this looks like maybe a pretty heavy snowstorm. So to make matters worse, you're already getting really intense lake effect snowfall. Again, 40, 50, 60 inches in some places. You might get a good 6-8 inches from this snowstorm as well, which could just make things even worse. Adding that much isn't going to help very much. In some areas, it might be over people's heads after this storm is said and done. So very intense snowfall. Wednesday the 4th here. Let me see if that little brief warm-up has occurred. We get a little milder here for Tuesday into Wednesday. That's the 3rd into the 4th. It's still rather cold. We even get some snowfall from this system happening for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So more snowfall for these areas. Again, shouldn't be too surprising. As we keep going, we do get colder once again, especially as we move towards the 6th, 7th here. 8th, we're still cold along the eastern seaboard. Very, very warm out west. And things get interesting here Monday the 9th. We see a little bit of a southern jet kind of moving up into our kind of more traditional northern jet here, which is moving like this. And they kind of want to combine and create a low pressure system here. We see snowfall to the north for the upper Midwest and portions of the Great Lakes again. We see this moisture joining forces with this. I'm very curious to see what happens here over the coming hours. But we really get a classic Ohio Valley snowstorm. And not only that, this thing gets even more crazy. We get a low developing by the Florida Panhandle that looks ripe for moving up the coast. Meanwhile, we have more cold air moving in, so things are getting colder. We're going to see something major come out of this. We already have moderate to heavy snowfall along the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast corridor here. Let's see what happens as we move beyond Tuesday the 10th here, kind of towards the overnight. We see this moves offshore of the Carolinas, bringing heavy snowfall to the Smoky Mountains as well as the Appalachian Mountains, the more northern Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia and Western Virginia. Definitely not the same thing. It's a 989. It's a very intense snowstorm, but we see most of the snow to the north of the low here for New England. I think that if this did occur, we could see a little bit more of a filled out look for these areas like more western New York, central Pennsylvania, central Virginia, DC, Maryland. If this exact look occurred, I could see heavier precipitation, I guess, on the western end is what I'm saying. Ultimately, this is that same setup where we had the low yesterday and it moved right offshore. And I mentioned to you guys, hey, I could see this riding right up the coast as early as tomorrow. Hey, it's tomorrow, and here it is, popping up on the model guidance here just after the 10th. Definitely something to watch for. And it gets down to a 976 near New England, a very heavy storm. That could be a blizzard at that low of a pressure, so keep that in mind. We stay a little milder after that point. After that cool down moves out, we're near normal here for Saturday the 14th. We get a little warmer than normal here for the 15th. We'll have to see what would happen after this, but still, that's the whole next 15 days. That's the next 2 weeks. We really don't see any serious warm signals, and even this isn't that crazy. This would be kind of back to 5-10 degrees above normal. I mean, it would be a big flip into the warm direction from what we had been seeing, but it's not anything crazy as far as warmth. And, who knows if it's going to last 2-3 days or 2-3 weeks. There's no telling. But to see a full 15-day period here of very cold and very snowy conditions is absolutely nuts. Let's look at the European model. We're going to get a lot of agreement here, obviously, with the lake effect and the cold. I just want to move us forward here. Here's that Great Lake system. Again, very similar. Mid-Atlantic and Northeast get some as well, and then it moves out. Here's as we're moving towards the 10th. Let's see if we get a storm here on this model as well, and we do not. We don't see anything similar. So keep in mind, we don't have agreement here at all. We really just see that Great Lakes system. The colder air moves in, but there's no storm to meet it. I would say this is probably your storm right here. It's sitting over the Western Gulf, just sitting tight. Obviously, a ton of space between the cold and the storm here, we would need to see this come together. So one of two models calls for this. That's going to leave us in some sketchy territory. We're going to continue to track it, though. I want to show you this, that we get another kind of Great Lakes event here as we move into Friday the 13th. It's a little bit of a weird day. 993 moving over the Great Lakes. Some rainfall in there, but we do get heavy snowfall in some spots, and it does as well move up into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast with some snowfall. This model disagrees a little bit. We're still troughing in the east by time we reach the end of the model run here, whereas the GFS model was calling for that warmth to move into the east. So we also only have one of two models calling for that warm up at the end. So some crossroads here. We're going to continue to track it daily with you guys, though. Here's the GFS model's total precipitation. Maybe looking a little wetter in the northwest. This is still going to be below average. The deep south may be seeing some above average precipitation, as well as the northeast and the Great Lakes. Let's take a look at it. And sure enough, again, still quite below average out west, and a lot of the middle of the eastern states here is seeing below average precipitation as well. To look for the above average, we have to look towards the Gulf states down there, the Great Lakes here, and in the northeast mostly. And this is still a very pathetic amount of the country seeing above average precipitation. This is a very dry look if we're looking at it overall. As we take a look at the total snowfall in the GFS model, clearly we get quite a bit in this corridor here from the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes seeing feet. Ohio Valley seeing a lot from that snowstorm they see. The East Coast, as long as it's interior, is seeing a lot too. And then the Cascades and Rockies seeing a little bit more, especially the Cascades, but still below average as far as I can see. The European model, we do get some agreement here. It's not quite as far south with that snowfall in the east, but we still get really decent amounts throughout the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes, of course, seeing a ton. And then we still end up seeing quite a bit of eastern snowfall here, especially in the mountainous areas. Cascades get none here. Same with Sierra Nevadas and Southern Rockies. The Northern Rockies get maybe upwards of a foot to 15 inches, but still very, very underwhelming snowfall amounts out there. When we look at the cold air, I mean, we're seeing it move in, obviously, here. Very severe. Here's this brief warm-up maybe by the 5th, followed by another major cool down here that lasts days from the kind of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, maybe warming up here in the GFS model around the 15th time frame. The European model, we get this initial cool down, obviously lasting days from today on the 29th through the 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Little brief warm up, but again, followed by an immediate rebound of the cold air. Maybe we're looking at 12 to 24 hours of warmth before we get this next cool down moving in for the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Here comes another one on this model for the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Maybe seeing a milder pattern set up as well here after the 15th time frame. It's just not quite as intense. And when we look at it as a full picture, we get the warmth out west. This is staying true, so I would suspect we will see, again, more cold air move in as long as that western feature is, in fact, there by the 14th, which there's no guarantee, but with the current look on this model guidance, I would suspect we're kind of moving back into colder times after this point, as long as that west is still warm. Anyway, guys, we will continue to break down this upcoming pattern with you guys every single day. We've obviously reached our first cool down and snowstorm that we've been talking about, so now we look again to the medium to long range and try to get it right once more. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for all of those daily weather videos. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.